Last time on A Night and Its Moon, Knox was furious that she let Ash escape, feeling certain that he was her lead to finding Amaris. A random little girl appeared to give Knox a quest hook and basically hand her the plot on a silver platter. Knox invited herself to the girl's house for dinner and fucked with her family for a while before leaving. Then Knox sneaked out to check out the demons in the barn. Why did she suddenly care about demons? Who knows? But hey, it's something happening. Knox finally got word of Amaris and passed out for some reason. The mistress reappeared, and Knox went with her because... question mark? But the mistress had a space-folding carriage, so that's cool, I guess. And finally, the mistress used her power on Knox and put her in a coma.
Alright, y'all. It is a very dreary, rainy day outside, and we are gonna try to read this giant chonker of a chapter that we know we got coming up. If you hear whinnying in the background, that's because the horses are outside and they're mad because they haven't had their grain yet, because I'm hoping that it will stop raining and I can go give them their grain. Because I don't like getting wet in the rain. I don't. But yeah, we have a great big cracking long chapter 22 here, and it's right before another one of those section breaks, so right before part 4. Alright, I'm gonna try really hard not to get distracted and just read straight through this thing, and maybe if I read at top speed, we can get through it all in one memory card, but it's doubtful. I'll probably have to go empty the memory card at some point during this reading. Let's go though. Chapter 22, we are back with Amaris, or at least Amaris adjacent, because actually we have Malik saying something first, and he's one of the boys. Every time I go a couple days without reading this book, I forget how wordy. Just so many words. All we're doing is describing a river, and it's just so many words.
Since during the course of the penultimate solar sojourn, I terminated my uninterrupted categorization of the vocabulary of our post-Norman tongue.
So eventually, we get to the part where they are all sitting down to camp by a riverside. The river that we talked about for like paragraphs and paragraphs. I honestly, is that river important?
Get used to disappointment.
But anyway, they're sitting, they're camping, and then a dark shadow like sweeps over the sky twice. And Amaris thinks that it's a dark fae. So probably her friends, her boyfriends. Although the description made it sound like it was blotting out like the entire sky. A dark shape shot above them, blotting out the stars. So not like the moon or anything, the stars. It doesn't say how many stars, so I was like, wow, how big is this critter? Is it like a dragon or something? And then it just turns out it was probably just one of her new boyfriends flying over, and I don't think they would have taken up that much sky, but alright. We're doing some more head hopping between Amaris and the guys as we are experiencing a long and drawn out back and forth where the bird boys have landed across the river and Amaris is like calling to them and talking to her friends on her side of the bank to reassure them, and it's just going on and on and on. Okay, this is just weird. So the bird boys come out and they all sit around the campfire, and Amaris starts comparing this moment to things, and like once maybe, okay, but it's like keeps going. If the moment had a flavor, it would be orange slices covered in chocolate. If the moment had been an animal, it would have been a puppy so ugly it was cute once more. As a holiday, it would have been a birthday party where everyone arrived with gift-wrapped coal just for giggles. Like, what? Why? What is that? I don't like it. Nope. And then this sentence, these things were delectable for those with a very specific palate, but most definitely not universally acceptable for common sensibilities. What the fuck is that sentence, ma'am? Just stop. Stop it, Piper. Stop right now.
As it sounds to me as if my being patron of this complete cowpat of a book will set the seal once and for all on my reputation as an utter turnip head.
So Amaris takes over as leader, because why wouldn't she? And she assigns all of her new reverse harem tasks to do so they don't fight with each other. And now she's sitting like a king before his table, because she's got her people on one side and the flappy boys on the other side so that she can like preside over all of them.
Okay, we've reached a point in this book where people are finally going to start talking to each other. And if I was Piper's editor, I would encourage her to combine this scene with the earlier scene where they all met. Rather than Amaris using her power on her friends, pissing everyone off, having that whole sexual assault attempt, just skip all of that. Have them meet up in the clearing, everything's tense. Amaris realizes, because it's super obvious that something's going on and her friends aren't seeing these people like she's seeing these people. They actually have this conversation at that point. And you might be saying, well, but we need Ash to go and encounter Knox so that she can get her plotline going, kind of. Although, again, does Knox really win or lose anything? She's back with the mistress now, so it almost feels like she stayed in place. You could just have them separate for some reason. Say Ash has to go check out this inn because he heard a rumor or something, and that's where he encounters Knox, and then the exact same situation could happen. But with a lot of scenes that don't need to be there, cut out of the book. And all of us, myself included, as authors, need to look for places where we can chop out whole big sections that don't need to be there. If you're anything like me, I tend to overwrite sometimes, so we all need to look out for those big sections that don't even need to be there, and the plot can be done more efficiently and more enjoyably if we just put it all together in one scene.
I'm so confused by how bitter she is at this whole situation. It's like all of this happened just to personally inconvenience her. They deserve their bitter medicine, both the Reavers and the Rascot Fae alike. Their intersection in her life had nearly cost her everything. Like, no, it didn't! What are you talking about? Like, everything that went wrong was your choice. You are the one who fucked up both of these interactions. By the way, there are 4 winged guys this time. She had only met 2 previously. And only now is the book bothering to introduce us to them. Sylvanas and Uriah. And I'm sure they're going to be very important characters. I don't even know why they're here. So the description of all of them sort of interacting and settling down around the fire and all of their like trouble understanding each other, it's all being told to us, but it's all also being told to us with so many words, and it just goes on and on and on. And finally, like 5 pages into the beginning of the chapter, they are getting around to talking about the thing they came here to talk about. And we should have just started with that, to be honest with you. The chapter could have started with they met the flying guys again, the Rascot Fae, again at a riverside, and after some awkwardness, which Amaris enjoyed, they sat down to have a conversation. There was just so much unnecessary padding. Now, obviously, it could be a little bit more descriptive than what I just gave you, but, like, you don't need a lot more, because the meetup and all of the awkwardness is not the important part of this chapter. Also, it's deeply annoying to me that the Reavers cannot understand the Dark Fae's language, which means that we have to spend even more words having Amaris translate what we have already read. And even though a lot of it is filtered through her sass, it's still like, I don't care. I don't want to read it. I still don't understand why these guys are coming south, because he's like, the Queen is strategically killing us. There are like little pockets of us all around here, and we just hide out and we move only at night, but the Queen has figured out where we are and she's sending her troops to kill us. And like, why are you coming south? Because they also say like she can't move on us specifically, like she can't go north and just attack. So I'm still so confused why, if you're being slaughtered when you go to the south, why are you going south? Oh, we might finally be getting an answer to my question about why they come here. Finally, somebody thinks to ask that question. It is not Amaris, because she's too busy being a self-centered bitch. It is Ash. Okay, so I think I vaguely remember we did get a little bit of an answer before that the king was looking for something, and now we find out that the king believes that he has a son. Unclear exactly why. And hopefully we'll find out why the king thinks his son is here in the south. Did he impregnate a southern lady a while ago and she just like ran off? Still, it still seems like a bad reason to be sending his people here to die, honestly. It's not working. It's been going on for a while and it's not working. Just put up like some flyers or something. Or wait for some southerner to come into your area and explain your situation to them and pay them handsomely to like start making search parties. Like, you don't have to come here and send your people to be killed. Also, I still have money that it's going to be a daughter, and then it's going to be Amaris, probably. We have more eyes touching. Zakai's eyes briefly touched hers. I'm sorry. The only thing that conjures is an image of eyeballs touching. Oh, Amaris feels a strange pinch of discomfort for the first time that night, and she didn't know why. Maybe it's because you're going to turn out to be the missing royal baby. But apparently the birth of the baby is what they believe started the curse. Weird, but alright. Oh, they feel certain that the son is still alive because if he had died, the curse would have been broken. And I'm like, how do you know that? How do you know that?
Frankly, it sounds made up.
So, okay, this writing I think has gotten worse, and I'm kind of struggling to understand it at this point. The sentences are so odd. The Flappy Boys want to go to a church, and Amaris is like, scoff, scoff, why would you want to go to a church? And they're like, well, we think that at this particular church there is a magical item that will help us find the missing prince. I knew this was going to happen. I knew this magical item thing was going to happen. We'll see if this magical item is real, but, you know, we already had the mistress and her space and time folding carriage. She keeps calling, like, being awake at night, nightlife. So now at least we have a goal. We have to go to the temple to get the magical item. I'm kind of confused why Amaris is going along with this, because I thought they wanted her to go speak to the queen. And don't you think that they would want her to do that as, like, quickly as possible, so maybe she can convince the queen to stop killing their people? But now all of a sudden they're like, no, detour, magical item.
I've still just got a couple of side quests that I want to make sure I finish.
Aha, Amaris asking the truly important question, how does the king know that the baby he lost is a boy? We don't get an answer. We don't get an answer. It just time jumps to them going to find the temple. Calling it now, Amaris is the lost princess. So they find the temple, but it just happens to be situated at the top of a sheer cliff with a waterfall. Which the Flappy Boys didn't think to mention because, of course, they have wings. We had this epic description of this temple atop a sheer cliff that was unclimbable, and it was just so they had to spend several hours finding a different route, which was just told to us. Nothing happened on the time that they were finding a different route. So why? The author is calling herself out. I don't know if she realizes it. For some reason, Amaris is thinking about words right now. No idea why. One of the few lessons that resonated with her throughout the years had been delineated that one was not to say infinitely when they meant very, lest they run the risk of having no words left when they needed to describe something truly infinite. Ma'am. One thing Piper CJ can never be accused of is having no words left. She has so many words, all of them, and she's not afraid to reuse them. But, like, do you understand that you are being needlessly wordy in the very sentence where you basically tell yourself not to be needlessly wordy? Using the correct and shorter words for something, if that is the correct and shorter word. But she never does that. Ever, ever, ever. Not once in this book. And then we spend an entire paragraph describing awe. And what awe is and what awe is not. Piper. Someone needed to slap your keyboard out of your hands, Piper, and tell you to stop. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna I'm skimming so hard as they're just describing everything. Everything. Put some words back, Piper. This is why this chapter is 11 million pages long. I'm not asking you to change your voice. I'm not asking you to change your story. I'd love if you change your characters, but right now all I'm asking you for, Piper, put some fucking words back. Also, as she over-describes this temple, I'm wondering if it is a location from The Witcher. I don't know enough about The Witcher to know for sure, and if I tried to read you all of this description, you would fall asleep before I got to the end of it, but I am just curious. If any of you have read this book and you remember this temple, is it from The Witcher series? Because I'm betting it is.
So I'm thinking that this temple is based on a temple from The Witcher, probably Melitel's temple, which we see in the latest season of The Witcher. I couldn't find a lot of footage inside of it, like there's a fight scene inside of it, but I couldn't find any footage of them just going into the temple. Just look at the exterior. It's really very much the same as is described on the page, and I feel the interior as well as the temple guardian, who we will have described later, and I will put up a picture of her, and you will see that this is probably just the temple of Melitel, just reskinned very slightly for Piper's book.
So the beginning of the book was very anti-church. The church is evil, the church hurts you. Amaris would have no inclination to like the church whatsoever, but now she's in complete awe of this temple. It's the most beautiful thing she's ever seen. She feels unworthy to be here, and it's like, why? Shouldn't you hate the church? I thought we were anti-church. The only reason I can think that she's reacting this way is because this temple was from the Witcher series, and so she wants her character to react the way that Ciri, let's say, would react to seeing some sort of temple in the fan fiction that this clearly was, or is. Of course, whenever there is something kind of weird like this, and characters are behaving in a way that doesn't make sense, there's always the chance that the author is later going to reveal that it was magic, because that has happened many times in this book. We have officially a very dark-skinned woman coming to greet them. I feel like this is also a character who we may have seen in the TV show of The Witcher. It says, Rascot Faye tended to be bronze. This woman was the true, dark, resonant browns of the whispered beauty of the Tarkani desert. So, I was kind of right. Amaris does have to go alone. It just isn't for the reason I thought. Men aren't allowed in this temple, apparently, so she has to go by herself.
And as was pointed out in a video by Reads with Rachel, check out her channel. If you like my channel, you'll probably like her channel, and possibly vice versa. Anyway, as was pointed out by her, and I don't know why I didn't put this together myself, they live in a patriarchal society. Men are in charge. It was a man from the church who always came to the orphanage to investigate them. It's a male-dominated society with their not witchers. And in the brothel, we hear about how, like, this is a way that women can have power. Except they have a goddess, and in their temples, like, men are not allowed. So why would their society form in this way? I don't know. I don't think Piper CJ thinks about this sort of thing. But it definitely helped me think about that sort of thing in my future writing, in my fantasy books, when I'm writing my religions.
Amaris says, wow. Wow. Apparently religions from our world exist in this world, which is strange. The priestess is talking about the tree and says she is the tree of life. She is Bodhi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Genesis, and Yggdrasil. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. But yeah, those are things from our world. I am so bored, y'all. Just keeps going. I don't care about this fucking tree. And Amaris's lengthy existential realization that they worship a tree. Now it's like Amaris is dealing with an NPC and she has to choose the correct dialogue choices. So the woman is kind of being obtuse. What can you tell me? I can tell you many things. Will you share them with me? What would you like shared? Pick the right dialogue choices, Amaris. The woman says, magic is energy. It is neither created nor destroyed. It exists before it takes shape and maintains its presence after it is uttered. If you find the orb of its physical shape, there too you will find your answers.
Excuse me, what?
So, in fewer words, find a magic orb? It kind of sounds like she's saying that you have to find a magical orb that is like all magic taking a physical shape, but it's unclear. But the lady doesn't have the orb. That would be way too convenient. We have way more fetch quests to do. Now, I don't mind a book that behaves like a video game, which this has started to do with Amaris and her boys here. It's almost like she had a couple of options for quests that she could go on, and she chose to go on this side quest before finishing the main quest. And I honestly don't have problems with books that move that way, if they are well written, which this is not. I could be enjoying this story if, A, I liked Amaris, and B, I wasn't physically drowning in all of these words. The woman says that the orb is held where all magic secrets are held. Thanks. Amaris is forgetting, because she's a dumbass, that she could just use her powers to demand that this woman tell her exactly and precisely where this magical orb is. So finally, Amaris does realize, oh wait, I could use my magic. Takes her a bit. But it doesn't work, of course. This priestess is not Fae. We're told that she is not Fae explicitly, even though we keep being told how ridiculously beautiful she is. She's also seemingly immune to Amaris's powers. However, she does tell Amaris, humans are meant to bow before your will. That is your blessing. Yes, Amaris' ego definitely needed that. Amaris has another existential crisis because if this woman isn't Fae and she isn't human, what is she? But it was already implied that she might be the goddess in, like, human form, so it might be that. Or she might be some other type of magical creature that Amaris doesn't know about. Well, we get another clue. Amaris is like, can you tell me where the king's son is? And the woman says, the king has no son. Amaris flips a switch from complete awe of this woman to thinking violent thoughts about her. Like, this woman has been being obtuse for pages and pages, and Amaris has been nothing but, she's beautiful, she's unearthly, what is she if she's not a human and she's not a fae? Oh my gosh, existential crisis. And now she's like, would she be damned to hell if she threw her shoe at the back of the holy woman's head? Again, this just feels like a video game where she has to choose the correct dialogue responses because she starts questioning the lady, you know, and getting the responses you'd expect. Does the king have an heir? He does. Why is the king certain it's a son? His beloved gave unto him a son. Like, just, it keeps going like that. They find out that a son was the result of their union, meaning the king and whoever he was having sex with. But the king has no son. So I'm kind of curious if it's son, like S-U-N, and it's Amaris. You know, she is the sun, she's so bright and beautiful or whatever. I know she's usually the moon, but maybe she is the sun. So Amaris has to leave, the priestess is done with her, she has reached the end of her dialogue options, but the priestess asks what her name is, and when Amaris says Amaris, of course the priestess has like this unreadable expression on her face. The guys are channeling me right now. They are interrogating her about how the whole interaction went. Obviously she failed to get the item that they wanted, and they are questioning her, why didn't you ask this, why didn't you say that? And I'm like, yeah. I feel the same, boys. I feel the same. Oh, we're finding out a new piece of lore all of a sudden. For some reason, their conversation turns to what makes someone a witch, and apparently human women with magic are considered to be witches. Or maybe just humans with magic. But fae have magic and they are not witches. But now we're learning about something called a manifester. New class just dropped, everyone. So manifestors can just spontaneously create things. They can make dreams into reality. We are sowing this seed awfully late into the book, if this is going to end up being like an important thing. And finally we get to the end of this section. Thank goodness we managed to do it all in one memory card, which is really impressive. I read as fast as I could, and I admit that I skimmed a lot because there were so many descriptions, and I don't think any of them were important. The section ends on a pretentious paragraph. What if the truth to learning was that the more you studied, the more lands you visited, the more people you met, faiths you uncovered, and things you read, as more and more rocks on this earth overturned to reveal their secrets, the more you realized how profoundly little you actually knew. And we will be on to chapter 23, which will be back with Knox, although unfortunately Knox has slid from being my favorite character because she was doing things, and now she has been incapacitated. More long chapters ahead, though, my goodness. But that's it for now. Made it through, all in one memory card. I bow. This is very skilled of me, thank you. I'll see you guys for whatever the next chapter brings us. Hi, hello, we're back out in my bower. We're out at the new house. It's a little bit windy today, hopefully that's not a problem. And I'm gonna have some lunch. I've got some pizza. These are my paint clothes. I was just painting a bathroom, so we're gonna have a lunch break and read some of this book because we are so close. We're so close to being done, y'all. And I already have the next read along lined up. You probably saw my little YouTube short, so 100% gonna get tomato sauce on this book. But let's go. Chapter 23. We are back with Knox, who, as you recall, just got zapped by the madam's, like, weird new power, whatever the fuck it is. I should have had Villain has sudden unexplained new powers as a bingo square, but live and learn. Knox is, like, laying there on the bed at the selfie, and she's all like, she never intended to return here, and now it would be her tomb, blah, 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 blah. She was gonna go back. She was willingly going back. It's so difficult to tell when people are using magic. Like, was she gonna go back because she, like, didn't put any thought into it and decided at the last minute that she didn't want to? Or was she gonna go back because the mistress had some kind of power over her? It is so unclear. And it's also, in this book, the author likes to use that handy out of being like, oh, it doesn't make any sense for a character to do this. Well, that's okay because someone compelled them with magic. Which I find to be kind of cheap, personally, especially since it's basically impossible to tell when someone is magicking you, but maybe that's just me. I have no idea. She's all like, I never intended to come back here, but to me, it seemed like she did. By the way, some animal left a shell, like a little shell, in front of my door here in the bower, and I can only conclude that it is the fairies. They appreciate that I appreciate the bower situation. Knox was told that Amaris was being held captive, and she spent her entire life trying to build up power and influence to go and find Amaris. She wanted to find her love. Amaris, who knew that things were not going to go well for Knox. She didn't necessarily know that Knox was going to be sold to the madam, but she knew, she had to know, that things were not going to go well for Knox. She's training to be a warrior, and off doing her own thing, probably finding out that she's a long-lost princess. And she's not even trying to find Knox. It's just so sad. Also, I was thinking about how the madam just wants power. You know how I don't really like villains who want power just for power's sake? I want to know what the power gets them. What does Millicent want to do with the power? She's using Knox to get all this power, all this influence. Why? Does she want to become queen? If she wants to affect the politics of the land, how does she want to do it, and what does it gain her? I want to see what she wants besides just power. I should have put that on the bingo card too, actually. We just learned that Knox's powers only work on men. Why? I thought that they would work on anybody, and like when she was doing stuff with, didn't she like do some stuff with the redheaded girl? I thought she just wasn't like using her powers. I thought she was just resisting, but no, her powers only work on men. Because she's like, if I had never come here, I would have never found out my powers because I would have never had sex with a man. If her powers only work on men, then why were they working on all adults when she was a child?
What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
There's a lot of mind control in this book, and I feel like a more skilled author could really do something with all of these ideas with the mind control, because Millicent is like freaking out and being like, yes, I, like Knox, have a power of death, but my power only causes death, and I can't manipulate people with that. Don't really quite understand why, except for, I guess, if she revealed her power, they would just kill her for being like an evil witch. But Knox can both kill people and manipulate their minds. And also, Amaris can manipulate people's minds. So it's like, there's so much going on here, and I would love to see what a more skilled author could do with these themes and ideas. Here, they're just plot conveniences. I feel like this author is close to being able to figure out, like, she's figuring out on the page, I'm watching it happen in real time, she's, like, realizing that there might be some ideas there to explore, like, it's interesting that both Knox and the mistress have the power over death, but only Knox is able to be useful because she can also manipulate people and force them to her will. But we're only gonna, like, point it out. We're not going to do anything with it. Now we're getting Millicent's backstory, which is unnecessary, but at the same time makes her kind of more interesting. Like, I want her life story instead of Knox or Amaris's, because, like, she was just raised by a simple peasant family who loved her. They hid her, like, weird mutation. I'm curious if we're going to find out that, like, her mom cheated on her dad, because otherwise how did two humans have a demon baby?
get used to disappointment.
Yeah, they called her Millie and they loved her, and I just want that story. Maybe she's not evil. Maybe in our version she's just pragmatic, you know? See, and then she accidentally killed the family's cat as a child, and it was just like, there's so much there. It could be so interesting. And I think it's because she's like a flawed, complicated person. A lot of authors, Jana Moresi being one of them, and this author being another, are under the mistaken impression that most people want to read about really cool people who are like the best at everything they do and pick up skills super quickly and easily, when in reality, a lot of us, especially myself, want to read about flawed people. People who have powers, but their powers aren't the best powers. People who are just trying to find their way. People who are a little bit pragmatic. Like, I'm really just not interested in amazing, awesome girls who are the most beautiful and the most skilled, who have the best powers and turn out to be long-lost princesses. I just... meh. So then, after she kills the cat, she accidentally kills her mother. But also, why didn't they get her a glove? Clearly, we see that her wearing gloves is enough to stop her from using her power on people. Why did her parents, after she killed the cat, not think, gloves?
The gloves will help. See? Conceal it.
Don't feel it.
Her mother is an expert seamstress, so she could have made her some special gloves. Oh, he does think of the gloves, but only after she's also murdered his wife. Her father even, like, made her the gloves and then sent her off to magic school so she could learn to master her power. Like, this is such an interesting story. Like, loving parents dealing with a child who is dangerous but good-hearted. Like, I want it. I want that story. Oh, Piper, I'm a little worried about you and your relationship with sex, Piper. I know that you were probably sexually repressed much of your life because you didn't even come out until you were well into your adulthood, and then you were basically shunned. So I suspect that Piper had a not great sexual upbringing relationship with sex, but some of the stuff in here is just like, why is that what you think of? Like, why is that your solution? The way that they bring Knox out of her coma is to have a drunken man rape her so that she can eat his soul energy and come out of her coma. Why? One of the things that I haven't been explicit that I do, but that I do in most of my books, is I challenge myself to limit the sexual violence. First of all, I don't really like sexual violence, just at all. I don't like reading about it. But secondly, it has become such a shorthand, I feel, for so many writers when they're like, I want something terrible to happen. I know sexual violence. So I want to challenge myself to have other things that could be bad happen to my characters and have just as interesting and engaging of books. Now, I'm not saying that nobody can write sexual violence or that sexual violence doesn't happen. I'm just saying, like, for me, I generally like to keep it out of my books. That's a me thing. I'm not saying anybody has to copy me. I would like to see less authors leaning on sexual violence as like their main thing that they especially can happen to their female characters. But yes, Knox is fine now. Now that she had a man forced on her, but then she ate his soul. So it's okay. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Everything's good.
Again, we have a character, because we had Amaris do this near the beginning of the book. When she got to the mountain, she wrote down a bunch of names and like facts that she had learned along the way. And now Knox is doing it with like everything that she's learned and sketching like Millicent's hand and everything like that. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, obviously it would be smart for characters to like write down information that they have found, but you don't need to detail it for one thing. You can just be like, she took a few notes. But also, I'm wondering if these notes are going to come up later, or if it's just more a way for the author herself to collect her thoughts, because she's like, okay, what all did just happen? I'm going to have Knox go over it and write it all down, and I will chronicle her writing it down so that I can remember. It's what it feels like to me. So Knox has decided to play the long game, so she lies to Millicent and is like, you did the right thing. I was having some kind of episode, some kind of attack, and you saved us both by using your power on me. Fortunately, we head hop to Millicent to be told right away that she is suspicious and it sounds fake, but that's what she really wants to hear. Okay, so Knox's new plan is to go back to seducing powerful men so that she can seduce the right powerful men to get to go see the queen, in hopes that when she sees the queen, Amaris will also be there seeing the queen. Seems like a bit sketch of a plan. I don't know how well that's actually going to work out, but, you know, whatever. At least she's got something that she's going to try for, and quite frankly, that's more than Amaris has most of the time. Amaris just kind of drifts along doing whatever the plot wants her to, being rewarded for her just innate amazingness. We're going to stop here. The next chapter looks long. And I have painting to do, so if I film any more in the old house, it will be one of my last videos ever filmed in the old house, because we are going to be moved in here very soon. So look forward to more filming in new locations here at the new place. Also, if you want to know how the new house is going, if you want a house tour and all of that stuff, I have that up on my Patreon. So become a patron at any level, even $1, and you could get to see more of like the house and how that's going and what it looks like and what things I've done, you know, all of it. Check it all out over there. And I will see all of you for the next chapter. Bye.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
It's LaFawn, Louisa, Amanda, Unicorn Jenny, Celia, Neon, Taya, Alyssa, Rita, Deborah, My96, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, and Sarah.
Being attractive is its own sort of prison. What if we stopped offering thoughts and prayers, and instead offered prayers and thoughts? For many years we've watched TV, but now the TV watches us.